I'm not sure if his inspiration was Dickensian in origin, but this holiday season, Stan Solo has ensured that Star Wars collectors will be visited by 3 ghosts from the past. If you're a member of the original Star Wars generation, you probably remember the last Kenner mail-away action figure in the vintage line, and that was Anakin Skywalker, sometime around 1984 or 1985. Kenner's Anakin Skywalker action figure famously depicted actor Sebastian Shaw in his Jedi robes, which means this action figure is completely 100% a ghost. The action figure came with no accessories, he did not even have hands that could hold accessories. His purpose was to stand at the back of the Ewok village and just loom. This was a concept Kenner had been flirting with years before they made Anakin Skywalker, however. If you look at the box art for the Dagobah playset and the battle-damaged X-Wing, you will see the Kenner artists use the Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure in those photographs, and he is very much supposed to be the ghost that he was at that time in the films. In reality, none of the Kenner action figures were strictly ghosts. You could argue that the Anakin Skywalker one was the most locked in that regard. But they weren't blue or translucent. That was taken on by the Power of the Force line in the 90s with a Lay's potato chips offer, where they offered a blue, semi-transparent ObiWan Kenobi that you mailed away for. Stan Solo has taken this a step further and said, what if Kenner had made 3 purpose-built ghost or spirit versions of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin? And given that these characters are some of the last images we see in the original Star Wars trilogy, it makes sense that Stan Solo would revisit them. We'll start with Stan Solo's Spirit of Anakin Skywalker, which is a subtle variation on Kenner's original Anakin Skywalker from 1985. What you're looking at with Stan Solo's Ghost Anakin Skywalker is a paler, bluer-tinged version of the original Anakin. It's subtle, but it's very much there. If you look at the original Kenner Anakin side by side with Stan Solo's Spirit of Anakin, you can definitely see the difference. The ObiWan Kenobi figure is rather interesting because Stan Solo opted to put the original vintage Obi-Wan Kenobi's head with a pale spirit tinge onto an Anakin Skywalker body. I'm sure the rationale behind that was the original Obi-Wan Kenobi body minus the cape was rather spindly, and he had that purpose-built lightsaber arm which would have been difficult to retool. And because he's standing there and he's in those full robes, you might as well just put Obi-Wan Kenobi's head on Anakin Skywalker's body. And that's probably what Kenner would have done as well back in the day if they'd had the option. Finally, we have Yoda. Now, Yoda is the biggest departure from the original Kenner version in the sense that while Obi-Wan is a head swap onto another Kenner body, Yoda is completely retooled from the neck down. He has the blue tinge, he has the sort of blue ghostly eyes like the other figures do, but instead of having the soft goods cloak or robe that he had in the original versions of the Kenner figure, Stan Solo has opted to sculpt that robe right onto his body so you don't have it sliding around, and you get full articulation that's not caught up behind all that cloth. It's a really impressive effort. Yoda is the standout figure in this trio because he's both vintage and at the same time reimagined, and I find him to be the most visually striking of the 3. He really anchors this figure trio from an artistic standpoint. Your eye just focuses in on him, and they look great standing together. And of course, they look awesome on the Ewok village intermixed with all the heroes from Return of the Jedi. I know in a lot of the videos you've seen me do in the past about Stan Solo, I've been talking about droid variations, but my fascination with Stan Solo isn't because I have a droid fixation. It's simply because Stan Solo is making the variants that Kenner never did, helping me enrich my vintage Kenner display without having to use modern substitutes that stand out like a sore thumb and don't have that magical Kenner aesthetic. This trio of ghosts here is unexpected, and yet at the same time, like all Stan Solo figures, it lends itself to that added enriched variety for your Kenner display. I'm really glad to have these figures in my Kenner collection because like all of the great fan-made toys coming from Stan Solo and Pro Customs and others, these are truly contributing to an enriched Kenner vintage display without having to compromise that Kenner aesthetic with substitutes. And that is the magic of guys like Stan Solo. Hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you want to see more videos about great fan-made Star Wars figures, you can watch our latest Star Wars fan-made roundup feature here. Or you can watch our fan-made toys playlist here. And now I'm gonna go put these ghosts where they belong, in the Ewok village in my Return of the Jedi display.